Atmosphere has been involved in the CT creation scene since 2021, and let me tell you that over the years his tracks have evolved by quite a lot. I mean, they literally went from looking like this to looking like this. And today I'm making it my task to rank all 48 tracks by Atmosphere from worst to best. For simplicity reasons, the ranking will include the newest version of each track that has been released on the wiki. So I'm sorry to all the Rocky Loop Mario Kart Tour version enjoyers out there. As always, each track will get a score from 0 to 10 so that you guys could see how much I actually like each track. Lastly, it should be said that all of this is of course just my opinion, so if you disagree with any of my points, you're wrong. So now that we got everything out of the way, let's dive right into this. 48, very short, non-meatloaf related track. Okay, for anyone that hasn't realized yet, this name is a lie. This should be a fairly obvious last place. I mean, one lap takes longer to complete than all of Mushroom Peaks. The only thing this track has to offer is one item box, but since the CPUs don't know how to drive this track, you won't even get a good item. But hey, if you ever want to get some desert bus flashbacks, this is a track for you. 47, Rick and Morty City. This track was created as a joke for the City CT Jam where it placed 23rd. And for anyone that hasn't noticed yet, this track is a circle. Now I like some circle tracks better than others, but this one's just super short, so I can't place it higher than this sadly. 46, Stranded Lava Lake. Now this finally isn't a joke track, but it's a different J. Jank. The entire track is filled with a ton of crazy collision bugs, and honestly it's kind of entertaining to play. At least as long as you don't imagine being one of the drivers. I bet they're not having a lot of fun. I wanted to place this track much higher, but obviously it's not very functional. 45, Koopa Troopa Resort. This track was created for the Vacation CT Jam where it placed 17th. It's not really bad, just very long and empty. Also, I want to know the thought process behind the split pathways, because the outer split pathway is like 10 seconds slower. Whatever, 3 out of 10, I like Koopa. 44, David's Lane. This was created as a haha funny joke track for the David Turbo Jam where it placed 4th. Like Koopa Troopa Resort, this track is obviously very empty, but at least this one's a bit shorter. Also, I guess there's more item sets, so more potential for me to get my beloved Thundercloud. 43, the Rex Skip-Inator. This is another joke track, but this time it was created together with Yoshitaku. Sure, it's a very short track, but it's actually weirdly interesting because of the first turn. It's kind of satisfying to take the first turn without bonking, which I definitely just did in this clip. Still a joke track though, so 43rd it is. 42, Garden Island. This was created together with an anonymous author, which I didn't know was a thing, and it's a remake of Factory Island by GeForce. Atmosphere has remade Factory Island twice for some reason, and this remake is definitely a bit more bare bones. It looks nice visually, but the gameplay is lackluster to say the least. Definitely not a bad track though. 41, David Raceway. This is Atmosphere's first custom track, and it's honestly not bad. It's a pretty short and sweet track, and it's honestly quite fun to drive. The layout isn't the most interesting, but otherwise the track definitely works. 40, Gold Leaf Gully. This track was created together with Alex TG4517 for the second edition of Kozakura's Mario Kart Wii Track Challenge. Both the track's layout and the visuals here are pretty fine. The reason why this doesn't place any higher is because the logs shoot the player way too high. It definitely can make the track more jank than you'd expect. Overall though, it's a pretty fun track, all things considered. 39, Space Center. This track was created for the Science CT Jam where it placed 9th. Like many other tracks down here, this one's just pretty simplistic. The track looks good visually and has some nice layout ideas, but I just wish it had a bit more meat on its bones. Also, the shortcut looks like it's supposed to be the main pathway, which has definitely thrown me off a few times. Otherwise though, this is a perfectly fine track. 38, Party Road. This track was created for the first edition of the First Come First Serve competition. That's a lot of firsts. Anyway, out of Atmosphere's older tracks, this is definitely one of the best. Both the visuals and the layout are pretty alright here. There's even this small off-road shortcut right here, which is completely useless, but it's still pretty cool to have. It's a simplistic track, but it's quite enjoyable. 37, Wrist Circuit. We're back to the joke tracks, although apart from the visuals, this one's actually really normal, believe it or not. Like the previous tracks, it has a simple but fun to drive layout. It's definitely one of the most functional joke tracks. 36, Acidic Area. This track was created for the Industrial CT Jam where it placed 12th. The layout here isn't too interesting, but I guess there are some nice off-road shortcuts. Overall, the track is quite fun to drive, and it looks pretty neat too. 35, Lava Canyon. This track was created for the Retro CT Jam where it placed 9th, and it's a remake of the very iconic Lava Canyon by Mr. Bean 35000 VR and Chatters. The track is quite fun to drive, and I like the lava geysers, but the layout is not too interesting. Still though, I enjoy playing this one. 34, Yoshi Stadium. Out of Atmosphere's old tracks, this one's definitely the best. The layout works really well, and I appreciate the unique design choices. The only larger issue with the track is the big ramp, as it's not trickable and it leads into a fairly tight turn. Otherwise, this track actually holds up pretty well. 33, Umbrian's Roller Coaster Cringe Edition. This track was created together with Bro of Fun, Carry On, Idris406, Mistora, Shortkey, Slippery Mac, Tototak Fan, and I'm Zapji for the Co-op Chaos CT Jelly where it placed last. Normally, this track would have gotten an 11 out of 10 because it has Minecraft, but since THF worked on it, this is where it ends up. Jokes aside, this is a weird track for sure. But believe it or not, the layout here is actually quite normal and pretty fun, to be honest. Some sections are a little confusing and there are some bugs, but otherwise I like this track more than I probably should. Either way, I think it's great having a track named after THF. 32, Factory Island. This is definitely the stronger Factory Island remake. It looks pretty cool visually and has some interesting design choices. The track is really short though. I feel like 5 laps would have probably worked the best here. 31, SNES Ghost Valley 3. This track was created together with Kozakura and it's Atmosphere's only retro remake to date. Ghost Valley 3 is actually my favorite SNES track and they definitely did a good job with this remake. It looks really good visually and drives very well. This is definitely where we see a large increase in track quality. 30, Cave River. This is a remake of Cave River by Spoofy and it was created for the second remake City Jam where it placed 10th. This is a great track with some nice visuals and fun gameplay. It's more on the forgettable side, but otherwise it's perfectly fine. 29, Under Construction Circuit. This is just a very solid track overall. It has an interesting idea with good visuals and nice gameplay. The first boost ramp is really inconsistent, but otherwise this is a great track for sure. I just find other tracks more enjoyable than this one. 28, Planetary Function. This track was created for the first edition of the Spin the Wheel CTs competition where it placed 3rd. It definitely has some more interesting and some less interesting sections. In particular, the outside sections definitely have more variety than the inside sections. Otherwise, the track is perfectly fine and the visuals look good too. 27, Aqua Metropolis. This is a sequel to Aqua City by Yoshitaku and was created for the underwater sequel City Jam where it placed 5th. It's a pretty nice simplistic track with good visuals and some neat shortcuts. There's not really much to complain about here, it just happens to be on the rather forgettable side. 26, Gambler's Getaway. This track was made for the Casino City Jam where it placed 5th. This is a pretty short and sweet track with a few interesting design choices. On Flame Runner the track is perfectly fine to play, but on other vehicles you might have to watch out a bit. It's still on the less memorable side, but I enjoyed the track nonetheless. 25, Cove Crossing. This was created together with Rex for the Waterfall City Jam where it placed 9th. This track has some pretty good split pathways, although the entrance of the left one could have definitely been a bit easier. Aside the split pathways, the track definitely feels a bit empty, which is why I can't place it any higher. 24, Route 46. This track is a remake of Route 46 by Yoshitaku and I think it was executed well. It looks very good visually and has a very nice but sadly way too short track design. Out of the shorter tracks however, this one definitely is one of the best. 23, Lava Wood. This track is a remake of Waterwood by Lemon and the Dora 7Z and this certainly has lava and wood. The track design here is much more interesting than most tracks that we've talked about so far, so why is this one so low? Well, the track is definitely a bit more giant than it needed to be. The last turn in particular is strange to say the least. Still, we're definitely starting to get to the really good tracks. 22, Nazarene Circuit. This was created together with Yoshitaku and it's kind of like Lava Wood but less jank. The track is pretty enjoyable to drive overall and has some interesting design choices. The final ramp of the track is really satisfying to take. Some sections could have definitely been more interesting, but this is still a very good track. 21, Citrus Land. This track was created for the Dream and Valentine's City Jam where it placed 5th. It has an interesting layout with some cool split pathways and strats. There are a few issues such as the half type not working very well and one of the split pathways having a pretty blind ending. Nonetheless, this track is really enjoyable, that's for sure. 20, Ghost Enemy C. This was created as a joke for the Ghost Turbo Jam where it placed 1st. Considering this was made for a Turbo Jam, this track is honestly quite impressive. The visuals look quite nice and there is a surprisingly large amount of details. It also offers some really solid gameplay. The only issues are one blind turn and some parts being a bit empty, but otherwise this is definitely one of the best Turbo Jam tracks to date. 19, Galactic Cathedral Garden. This is actually the only track where I didn't write down any additional information, so does that make this Atmosphere's most forgettable track? Maybe, but it's definitely far from its worst. The track has a rather simple yet really solid layout, even featuring some pretty cool shoeless strats. The visuals are good too. There's honestly not much to complain here, I just find the tracks above this one more interesting. 18, Frigid Fun Race. This was created together with Nosley for the Fire and Ice City Jam, even though only like 5% of the track is actually fire, where it placed 4th. The layout here is quite interesting with a lot of split pathways and some cool half-pipe sections. My biggest issue with the track is that it's a bit confusing and surprisingly difficult. You don't really expect a track to be difficult when its default slot is Luigi's Circuit of all tracks. Nonetheless, it's a really fun and replayable track. 17, Colorful Cathedral. This track was made together with Fafina for the Color Turbo Jam where it placed 1st. Ghost Enemy C was already an impressive Turbo Jam track, but this track is that times 3. It's honestly crazy how much detail they were able to put into this track in such a short amount of time. The gameplay is really good too for the most part. It's definitely getting more difficult to rank now since all tracks up here are really good. 16, Skybound Cloudscape. This track was created for the Sky City Jam where it placed 4th. Keep in mind this track has both a day and nighttime version, but I personally find the daytime version to be a bit more fitting. The track overall has a really great and fun to play layout. I wouldn't say it's the most interesting track, but it's very enjoyable nonetheless. 15, Twilight Valley. This track was made for the second edition of Spin the Wheel Reboot where it placed 1st. This track has a really nice and pleasant looking visual style. The track is really enjoyable to play and all sections flow very well. This would have had 10 out of 10 potential if the track was just a bit more memorable. 14, Bullet Bill Bluff. This track was originally created together with Chow Chin Tosh and Mickey Man 713 for the Booster Shit Pass CT Jelly, where its cup placed 5th. Since then, the track has been updated and it looks a lot nicer now. The gameplay on this track is strange to say the least, but it actually works surprisingly well. Despite all the crazy turns, this track isn't as hard as it may seem at first glance. The bullet builds are a really cool idea, but also kind of ineffective since they don't often get in your way. Still, I appreciate all the unique ideas here. It makes the track quite memorable. 13. Breeze Chill Citadel. This track was created for the Arctic CT Jam, where it placed 3rd. Visually, it's a very strong track and the track design is quite good too. Although the wind on the bridge sections doesn't affect many races, it's still pretty cool to have. The track does have some pretty long straightaways, which is what prevents this from placing higher. 12. Intergalactic Lair. This was made together with Sneaky for the Space CT Jam, where it placed 6th. I really like the rainbow texture on this track. It looks very unique. The track overall is really fun to play, although I don't think it's as interesting as it could have been. A couple sections feel a bit basic, but otherwise this is a totally great track. 11. Gold Leaf Shoreline. This track is a remake of Leafy Beach by Luigi Story and was created together with MKWii for the 2nd edition of Luigi Story's remake competition, where it placed 1st. Yeah, it's time for the biggest elephant in the room since I did also create this track. I did think about excluding it from the ranking, but honestly that would have been boring. Obviously my opinion here is gonna be very biased, but I do like how this track turned out. My favorite part about this track is probably the strats and shortcuts. There's quite a couple of them and they're all satisfying to take. I won't place it in the top 10 though, since it is on the rather short side. Oh yeah, also I found out yesterday that some trees don't actually have collision. Whoops. 10. Candy Corp Canyon. This track was made together with Shorkey for the Candy CT Jam, where it placed 4th. Doing a top 10 definitely wasn't easy since all tracks up here are extremely good. This track is certainly no exception to that. I really like the theme here, especially the red water looks really cool. The track design is mostly great as well. Out of all the candy themed tracks out there, this one's definitely one of the best. 9. Shy Guys Stormy Seaport. This track was made for the Storm CT Jam, where it placed 2nd. The track's strong suit here is definitely the boardwalk section. It not only looks amazing visually, but also has some of the strongest gameplay out of any track here. Unfortunately, the beach section is much weaker. Otherwise, this would have easily been a 10 out of 10 track. 8. Artificial Arboretum. The fuck is an arboretum? This track is a remake of Peak Garden by Kai8594 and Nico Plays. This track has a great theme, great visuals, great track design, great objects. Honestly, there's nothing bad about this track. That's why this is our first track to get the almighty 10 out of 10 rating. All tracks from now on have like almost no flaws, so this is getting very hard. 7. Skyloft Slope. This track was made for the Floating Island CT Jam, where it placed 2nd. I always love me some Zelda tracks. While some visuals here can be a bit confusing, the track design here is just a masterpiece. The entire track drives pretty well and most sections are quite interesting. With more easily readable visuals, this would have definitely been top 5. 6. Lantern Light Terrace. This track was made together with Birch for the Garden CT Jam, where it placed 1st. This is Atmosphere's first CT Jam win, which of course happened right after I released my CT Jam winner ranking. But anyway, this is a very strong track. The track is very fun to play and looks amazing visually. Maybe some sections could have benefited from having more objects, but nonetheless, this is a very deserved CT Jam winner. 5. Meatball Mountain. This track was created for the Pasta CT Jam, where it placed 5th. I didn't expect this kind of theme for any track really, but I unironically love it. The track looks absolutely awesome and very unique. The track is really enjoyable and has some great shortcuts and strats. This track seriously makes me hungry. 4. Poisonous Pass. This track was made together with Shorkey for the Mushroom CT Jam, where it placed 2nd. This track is Meatball Mountain, but pink. No, but seriously, this track slaps just as much as Meatball Mountain, although admittedly it looks a lot less tasty. This track also has a lot of really cool strats and is overall just a blast to play. And no, I'm not saying this because of my mushroom track bias. This track only has like 6 mushrooms, okay? The entire track is just an absolute banger, that's for sure. 3. Painted Petals. From one PP track to another, this was made for the Art CT Jam, where it placed 2nd. And the first place that jam was actually Battle Arena, so out of all the race tracks, this one basically won. The whole track has a phenomenal track design and it's very clear that a lot of thought was put into it. Every single section is very interesting and enjoyable, and there's even these cool paintbrushes. The visuals look stunning too. The top 3 was incredibly hard to decide. 2. Full Moon Facility. This track was created for the Moon CT Jam, where it placed 1st, and to this day it's still the highest rated CT Jam track ever. And I think it's obvious why. The amount of detail on this track is insane. I don't have the slightest idea how Atmosphere was able to put all of this into this track in such a short time. Not only that, but the gameplay here is really strong too. There's quite a lot of really cool strats, especially at the start of the track. But even with the insane quality of Full Moon Facility, there's still one track to go. So, in my opinion, the best track that Atmosphere has made to this day is Shy Guys Skies. He made this track together with Square Turnbolt, and man, they did a fantastic job. The entire track is extremely fun to play and very interesting. I have no clue how they made the entire ship go up and down, but it's extremely interesting and one of the coolest split pathways ever. I absolutely love the visuals too. It's definitely one of the best looking CTs of all time. So for being an extremely fun and very replayable track, this one gets the first place. Now it's your turn. Let me know your opinions in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, then I'd appreciate if you guys could drop a like and a sub. And if you guys didn't enjoy this video, I don't know, I think that's just a skill issue. So that concludes this ranking. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you you guys in the next video, and as always, enjoy Wario on drugs.